What if I told you that deep in a Chinese cave, archaeologists found something that shouldn't exist? 32 human skulls arranged in a perfect circle, all facing inward. Each skull bore identical puncture wounds, but it wasn't the wounds that made the scientists pack up and leave. It was what they found in the center of that circle. Something that proved our ancestors fought a war so terrible, so brutal, that they tried to erase it from history. This is that forbidden story. The night was too quiet. Ugta knew this silence, the kind that comes before death. Every cricket had stopped chirping. Every bird had fled. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. He gripped his spear tighter, the fire-hardened point trembling slightly as he scanned the tall grass beyond the dying embers of their fire. "They're here," whispered Kor, his brother. "I can smell them." That smell, like rotting meat mixed with wet fur and something else, something wrong. It was a scent that triggered memories buried deep in their bones, inherited fears from countless generations who had smelled it seconds before they died. Then came the sound. Low at first, almost like distant thunder. But thunder doesn't laugh. Thunder doesn't call your name in the voices of the dead. The whooping began from the east, was answered from the west, then the north, then the south. They were surrounded. Mira, only 12 summers old, pressed against her father's side. "Papa, what are they?" Kor didn't answer. How could he explain something that shouldn't exist? How could he tell his daughter about the demons that had haunted their bloodline for 1,000 generations? The creatures their ancestors called the Bone Crushers. The monsters that modern humans would one day name Pachyrhikuta brevirostris, the giant short-faced hyena. To understand the terror of that night, we must travel back 5 million years to when the world was young and wild. The forests of Africa were dying, replaced by endless grasslands that stretched beyond the horizon. In this new world, a terrible arms race began. Prey grew larger. Massive elephants, giant buffalo, horses the size of modern rhinos. And the predators. They had to match them or perish. One lineage of hyenas underwent a transformation that would haunt human nightmares forever. Generation by generation they grew, not just in size, though they would eventually reach 400 kilograms, 4 times the weight of their modern descendants. They grew in intelligence and cruelty and their taste for a very specific kind of prey. By 1 million years ago, they had become perfect killing machines. Standing 100 centimeters at the shoulder, tall enough to look a child in the eyes, they possessed jaws that could generate 4,500 newtons of force. To put that in perspective, they could bite through a mammoth's leg bone like you'd bite through a carrot. But it wasn't their strength that made them apex predators. It was their minds. These weren't mindless beasts. They hunted in coordinated packs of up to 40 individuals. They used tactics. They held grudges. They remembered faces. And worst of all, they had discovered that humans were the perfect prey, soft, slow, and predictably found near water sources and caves. The matriarch of the pack surrounding Ukta's clan was ancient by hyena standards, 15 years old, scarred from hundreds of battles. Her right eye was milky white, destroyed in a fight with a saber-toothed cat, but her left eye burned with an intelligence that was almost human. The humans called her Blood Eye, and she had developed a particular taste for their flesh. Blood Eye's hunting strategy was psychological warfare perfected over years of practice. First came the isolation, surround the prey, cut off escape routes. Then came the calls, that horrific whooping laughter that would continue all night, every night, until the humans were too exhausted to fight. Finally came the testing, quick rushes from the darkness, probing for weakness, fear, mistakes. She had learned that humans broke after 3 nights without sleep. Their reactions slowed. Their coordination failed. Their precious fire, the only thing hyenas truly feared, would start to die as exhausted sentries dozed at their posts. On this 4th night of the siege, Blood Eye knew they were ready. She could smell their fear sweat, hear their ragged breathing, sense their desperation. With a series of low growls, she positioned her pack. 15 would attack from the front, drawing the humans' attention and spears. 10 would circle to the cave entrance, cutting off retreat, and she would lead 5 of her best hunters from above, dropping from the cliff that overhung their shelter. The attack came like a thunderbolt. Ukta saw the grass explode with spotted bodies, each one massive as a modern lion, but built for something far worse than a clean kill. The first hyena to reach their defensive line met Kor's spear, the obsidian point driving deep into its chest. But momentum carried the dying beast forward, bowling Kor over. its jaws still snapping even as blood poured from the wound. Tara, the clan's fiercest warrior, swung a burning branch in wide arcs, creating a barrier of flame and smoke. A young hyena, eager for its first human kill, tried to dart past. Her second weapon, a volcanic glass knife, found its throat. The creature's death scream was cut short as arterial blood painted the ground black in the firelight. But then came the sound from above, claws on stone, bodies landing with meaty thuds. Blood-Eye had done the impossible, leading her elite hunters up the cliff face. They dropped into the middle of the human defenders like demons from the sky. Chaos. Pure chaos. In the confined space, the humans' long spears became liabilities. This was what Blood-Eye had planned. Close quarters where her pack's size and strength gave every advantage. She personally targeted Gore, knowing that killing the strongest would break the other's spirit. Gore met Blood-Eye's charge with desperate courage. As her massive jaws opened, revealing teeth designed to pulverize elephant bones, he thrust his torch directly into her mouth. The smell of burning flesh filled the air as she recoiled. But her claws had already found their mark, raking across his chest and opening wounds that would never heal. Young Mira watched her father fall, and something ancient awakened in her. The same fury that had kept humans alive for 1,000,000 years. She grabbed a piece of burning wood and became a whirlwind of flame and rage, striking at eyes and noses, the sensitive spots her mother had taught her. But the battle was turning against them. Of the clan's 12 fighters, 6 were down. The hyenas had lost only 3, and more kept coming. It was then that Ukta did something that would echo through history. He began to sing. Not words, for language was still crude, but a rhythm, a sound that meant something to both species. It was the song of the dying, the last stand, the promise that even in death they would take enemies with them. One by one, the other humans took up the chant, their voices rising above the snarls and screams. Something in that sound made even Blood-Eye pause. These weren't prey animals bleating in fear. These were warriors choosing their death, and in that moment of hesitation, everything changed. From the darkness came new sounds, human voices, dozens of them. Torches appeared on the horizon like angry stars. The neighboring clan had heard the battle, had chosen to risk everything to help their distant cousins. They came running, bringing fire and fury and fresh spears. Blood-Eye was too intelligent to fight a battle on 2 fronts. With a series of commanding barks, she called the retreat. The hyenas grabbed their dead, they never left their own behind, and melted into the darkness. But as she left, Blood-Eye locked her one good eye on Mira, memorizing her scent, her face. This wasn't over. The war between human and hyena would rage for another 500,000 years. Sometimes the humans won, driving the giant predators from prime territories. Sometimes entire human populations vanished, leaving only gnawed bones in deep caves as monuments to their extinction. The hyenas' advantages were numerous. Their bone-crushing bite was unmatched in nature. Their matriarchal societies passed down hunting knowledge through generations. They could digest parts of carcasses that would poison other predators. A single clan could control hundreds of square kilometers, turning it into a killing field where humans dared not venture. But humans had advantages too. Fire was their greatest weapon, the dancing flames that turned prey into predator. They developed new technologies, spear throwers that could strike from distance, pit traps covered with branches, poisons derived from plants that could bring down even a giant hyena. Most importantly, they had something the hyenas couldn't match, the ability to unite. When Blood-Eye's pack threatened one clan, others would come to help. Knowledge spread between groups. The location of hyena dens, their hunting patterns, their weaknesses, all became shared human intelligence. The fossil record tells the story of this ancient war in heartbreaking detail. In South Africa's Kromdraai cave, scientists found the skeleton of a 10-year-old child cached deep in a hyena den. Healing marks on the bones revealed something horrific. The child had been kept alive for days, fed upon gradually. The hyenas had learned to keep their meat fresh. In Spain's Cima de los Huesos, researchers discovered 30 human ancestors at the bottom of a pit. But these weren't accidental falls. Tooth marks and the presence of Pachyrhinacuta fossils told a darker story. The hyenas had learned to dispose of their kills, hiding evidence from other scavengers. But the most chilling discovery came from that Chinese cave mentioned at the beginning. The 32 skulls arranged in a circle? They all belonged to young adults, all killed by the same method, a precise bite to the back of the head. In the center of the circle, archaeologists found something that made them abandon the dig. A giant hyena skull decorated with human finger bones, surrounded by children's teeth. It was a shrine. But who built it and why? The giant hyena's extinction came slowly, fought valley by valley, generation by generation. Climate change reduced their prey. Human intelligence grew sharper, deadlier. By 500,000 years ago, the last Prehistoric died, taking with them the memory of humanity's greatest predator. Or did they? In remote corners of Asia, local legends speak of massive hyenas that still hunt in the deepest nights. Livestock found with bones crushed in ways no modern predator can achieve. Caves where even experienced spelunkers report hearing sounds that shouldn't exist. That whooping laughter echoing from passages too deep to explore. Scientists dismiss these stories. Prehistoric is extinct, they say. The bones prove it. But bones only prove what died, not what survived. And in a world where coelacanths swim after 66 million years of extinction, where new species are discovered in places we thought we knew, can we really be certain? Late at night, when you hear your dog growl at nothing, when that primal fear crawls up your spine for no reason, remember this. We evolved to fear something specific. Something that hunted us in the dark for 500,000 years. Something intelligent enough to hold grudges across generations. Modern hyenas still gather at the sites of ancient battles. They dig in places where no bones should be, following genetic memories of treasures buried deep. They call to each other in voices that sometimes, just sometimes, sound too deep, too loud, too much like laughter. Blood Eye's lineage didn't die. It adapted. It learned. It waits. Because extinction is just another word for hiding, and some wars never really end. They just pause. And in the deepest caves, in the darkest nights, when the moon is new and the world holds its breath, something remembers the taste of human fear. Something remembers when we were prey. Something remembers the circle of skulls and the promise made in that ancient shrine. What was taken will be returned. What was lost will be found. What once hunted will hunt again. The war isn't over, it's only sleeping.